Nobody 2 is now out in theaters, the sequel to 2021's Nobody. Both are starring Bob Odenkirk, and this might be better than the first for me. I really enjoyed this film. I mean, it just does its job. It's everything that you expect from a sequel to 2021's film. It's just, nonstop action. Everything that you loved about that first film is definitely here again in Nobody 2. Just, I think probably amplified just a little bit because, it's a little bit different in this one. This time, they take a vacation. Hutch and the family. We start off and him and his wife are, having troubles. He's working too much. He's killing too many motherfuckers in the beginning. And their, marriage is starting to get a little estranged. So he decides, fuck it, let's go on a vacation as a family. Let's spend some time together. So he decides to take him to this place that he went to as a child. The only time he went on vacation, apparently, is what he says. And it was one of the happiest times of his life. So he wants to recreate that. He says it multiple times in the movies. He's here on vacation with his family, making memories. And this is just a small town. It's basically like this amusement park. It's got an arcade, water park, and it's almost like a fair type vibe too as well, with all the different rides and games and all that stuff. And, of course, this being, an action movie, and Hutch, wherever this guy goes, trouble follows. So, of course, this town is secretly run by this super high up drug lord. It's really just like a hub for trafficking drugs and just all that type of stuff. And he gets caught up in the middle of it once again, fucking with the wrong dudes. And of course, this sets off a chain of events where this guy is just going balls to the wall, having to murder so many people. I mean, I don't even know what the kill count was in this. It has to be in the upper 30s or 40s probably. This guy kills a lot of motherfuckers, but you love to see it. I mean, this is why you go to watch a movie like this. And it's up there with John Wick and just action-wise, the choreography. It's all, it doesn't cut a lot. That's why John Wick is so good. It's choreographed so well, but there's not a lot of cuts. It lets you sit in the action. It lets you watch pretty much everything that's going on just from one point of view, basically the whole time. Obviously cuts here and there, but it just lets you breathe and soak in these scenes. And that's why it is so awesome to watch movies like this. And what sets apart the action in this movie for me compared to the first is definitely the environment, the setting that this takes place in, and this being in an amusement park type place, a small town, and just everything that they're able to use with that. Having these fights in like an arcade, and he's just smashing dudes' heads in a pinball machine, and grabbing the claw, like from those claw machines, grabbing that and sticking it in someone's head, and just all of that stuff. I mean, the water park, there's so much stuff that they utilize in this. A funhouse mirror. There's a fight in this funhouse mirror scene, and these guys come in shooting, and you don't know where he's at. It's just utilized so well and so creative, and it just makes for a really, really fun time. One of the best scenes, though, is definitely on this boat tour ride where he's fighting these 4 dudes. It's a tour, so you get on. You're supposed to wear headphones, and the driver, the guide, he's explaining to you what you're seeing, what the environment is, the history behind it, and all that, I would assume. So there's like 2 old people on the boat with the headphones on, and he's just kicking these 4 dudes' ass in the back. They don't hear anything, apparently. They're just, completely oblivious to what's going on in the back. But that scene was so creative, so funny too. I mean, Hutch seriously fucks up a lot of people in this, like in a lot of crazy ways. It is definitely very bloody, knocking people's teeth out, and just really also using stuff around him to defeat these guys and just absolutely obliterate anybody in his way. It really is just incredible. Such a great time to watch, especially on the big screen. And speaking of incredible, Bob Odenkirk. I mean, this guy is made for roles like this. It is hard to think that, before watching the first Nobody, it's hard to think that Saul Goodman would have John Wick type talent with the choreography and just being able to keep up with all this heavy lifting that an action movie like this entails. But he does an absolutely amazing job. He's such a badass, and a lot of his anger in this film specifically stems from in a beginning scene where his family gets fucked with, specifically his daughter and his son, and he just goes into just complete dad mode, basically. And this is what starts those chain of events, really, because he ends up fucking with the wrong person in this arcade place. But he's just got that grit, just that dad strength, basically, and even more so in this film. And I actually think the story in this, like the script, the idea behind this second film, is actually pretty decent. I mean, a lot of these action films are kind of, all the same. This does have a similar plot, to the first one, to a lot of action movies, but I think with it being, in this small town that Hutch remembers as being, his favorite memory as a kid, one of the happiest times of his life, but he finds out later that his dad only took him there as a job. And the fact that one of his favorite memories in his life happens to be this place that is basically just a cover for a huge crime syndicate, I think that's very clever and pretty much perfect for this sequel. Sharon Stone is also in this film as the main villain, the girl who's on the very tippy top of this chain, and she is absolutely unbelievably crazy. She is so over the top. Her character is literally insane. But the way that her character is, it can come off as like kind of cheesy and just weird, but I think she plays it very well. It comes off almost as just, this is how psycho she is. And she does certain things that convince you of that, just right away when we first get introduced to her character. She is so ruthless and just really doesn't give a fuck about anything other than making her money and keeping her business intact. So anybody that fucks with her in the slightest way, she will take down in the worst possible way. And of course, Christopher Lloyd returns back as his father. I was kind of like hesitating if it was actually him at first, because the whole movie, he has his sunglasses on. Like, we literally never see his full face, but it obviously is Christopher Lloyd. RZA returns as well as his brother. It's RZA. He's super fucking cool. He has this super sick scene at the end of the movie where he's using this katana sword. And after he defeats this guy, he has an amazing one-liner that you will just chuckle at. A lot of this movie you're going to chuckle at. And I really just don't see how anybody can have a bad time while watching this movie, because this is nothing like, A Working Man that came out earlier this year with Jason Statham, which is, similar type movie, but that movie was very disappointing because I thought The Beekeeper was great. Nobody 2 just does pretty much everything right. I don't really have any complaints about it. It's nice and short. It's only an hour and a half. And the family dynamic, we did a lot more in this as well. Like I said in the beginning, him and his wife are having problems. She was great because she actually turns into a badass at the end as well. And his whole family really is too, because you have his son who kind of has his own little arc where he's kind of taking after his dad and, getting fights in at school. I think he got fouled in a basketball game and he got in a fight. And actually, looking back, he's actually the one who kind of starts this whole movie, this whole chain of events, because he is the first person who starts a fight in the arcade, and then, Hutch has to step in. But you just did a lot of that with his son specifically. Is he going to turn into Hutch? Is he going to become his dad? Does his dad want him to become like him when he was older, because he became like his dad? So I really did just enjoy those small nuances as well that were kind of placed here and there in the film. Not integral, major parts of the movie, but just sprinkled in enough to actually, make you feel something. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's an absolute blast. Definitely go watch this movie. You don't necessarily have to see the first one to see this, although it would help. But Bob Odenkirk really does kill it in this movie. This guy is so badass. He's so relentless. The action is relentless. And the last thing I will say, of course, Hutch can take a fucking beating, man. This guy can take a lot of hits, keeps coming back, just so badass once again. So I'm gonna give this movie an easy 8 out of 10. Go watch this film in the theaters, preferably. But as always, I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Zach. Like, subscribe, comment. Later.